Hello, welcome to look at Premiere Rush 2021. In this video, I'm going to take you through how to use the software, how to edit videos, all that sort of fun stuff. So open up Adobe Premiere Rush 2021. That's the first thing you want to do. Then you want to go to New and you want to go to Project. So once you've done that, you're going to have your file system on the left-hand side and you'll be able to navigate to your files. You can even press the favorites button if you've got a particular folder where you keep all your stuff. You might want to favorite that folder and you'll be able to easily access it in future edits. So the way to do it is if you've got a bunch of, say you've got some video files, you can click on them and go 1 and 2. So you can see these are now added. If you want to remove it, you can do that and that. You could do maybe 1 and 2 on that one. However you want to do it. For now, I'm just going to choose one particular file and be able to do all the different stuff that we can do with it. So here you could give your project a name, perhaps tutorial. And in this cogwheel, we can also change the project setup. If you want to optimize it for mobile phones, maybe. You want to do some effects with photos as well. This might be a good one for photos here. But we're going to click on Create. And it's going to say Preparing Media. Now, when you want to edit a video, the best thing to do is, here's the interface. But the best thing you want to do with a video when you're editing it is you want to make sure that as you're editing it, your computer doesn't slow down. That's the thing that is actually the worst part about video editing, that your computer is actually going to slow down while you're video editing. So the way you're going to avoid that with Premiere Rush is actually a few different ways. You can see this thing, it seems to be a little loading bar. If you click on it, you see it says generating optimized clips. What that's meaning is it's actually going to generate clips that when you're editing, it's not going to slow your computer down so much. So the best way to actually make everything really, really good before you start editing, before you do anything, to make sure you can edit, you can get smooth process in editing, is you go to View here, and you can see, you check mark this, the Use Optimized Clips. And you also want to go to Preview Quality here and put it down to low. So you'll still be able to see the images. It won't be incredible quality, but the quality that you want is for the output. When you're editing, as long as you can see the thing, that's fine. And it will make your editing much better, because when you're doing things like this, and you're scrubbing through huge amounts of files and your computer is trying to find it all, that could potentially slow your computer down. So you're not going to want that. So change those settings immediately, and now we'll actually get on to using the software. So let's take a look at some of the buttons that we've got on the software, shall we? So you may be alerted to this bright blue button here, which is Add Media. Now what you can do is you can add media, you can add graphics, audio, or even do a voiceover. So if we do add media, you can see this is going to open up the file we just had before. So we can add more files into it. Not going to do that one. Add graphics. So you can see this is going to let you do all the different stuff with the graphics. And we'll get onto that in a minute. Click on audio, you can see we're going to get a bunch of different stuff. We can do soundtracks. Click more, you can see a bunch of different stuff that you might want to put into your project here. And the other one is voiceover. So what this is going to do is actually going to automatically activate this button, which is the control tracks button. So you see if I can toggle that on and off. What it does is it does this, and it puts this here. And if I tap to record, it's actually going to layer another additional audio track underneath here. Another way we could do that is go sequence, add, and do a voiceover. I'll also do exactly the same thing. Okay, but before we go into all that, let's actually talk about what is on the screen here. Here we've got like the monitor window, and here we have the timeline. So we can say what we're doing here, this is called scrubbing through the timeline. If we wanted to go to sequence, we could do play audio while scrubbing. And you can see, I'm obviously scrubbing quite fast, but you can hear little bits of audio there, right? Not necessarily that useful to do it. Now, what if I wanted to remove all the audio from my game here and all the audio in general and then put on one of those music tracks we saw on, which might be something that you want to do if you're not playing Minecraft, if you're actually doing something, you know, like a wedding or something more normal, right? So what you would want to do in that situation is you can right click here and you can see it's going to go separate audio. So what that does is you can actually, you can make it bigger if you want by pressing this button, but you can see we've got the clip here and we've got the audio. So what we could do is you could just press delete on that. Before we do that though, I would like to just go to this section, which is audio. So this is actually the way that you can actually sort a bunch of different stuff out. So in this section, you can see we've got a bunch of different stuff. So you might want to enhance the speech. So maybe you've got someone with a very high-pitched voice. You might want to lower their voice. Or there's different things to do. In general, I'll find these two options, balance sound, reduce background noise. This is a very powerful effect that's actually very useful to do. And in more professional things, you're going to want to do this all the time. And then you're going to want to change the intensity And that will basically, if you've got a recording in like a large room, it's just going to make the audio that much crisper, especially for like a speech or anyone just talking. All right, but like I said before, what if you just wanted to add a music track instead and you didn't really want any of this audio? You can just click here and then you can just press delete. Then we can go to plus and we go to audio. Say we want to just have this song. I haven't listened to any of them. I've got no particular preference for either one of them. Now, what we can do is sometimes you want to make sure that if the screen gets a bit too full, I like to have everything really big on the screen. So I have to make sure that the screen doesn't get too full. So you can see that if something is highlighted, so you can see if something's highlighted like this, it means you can just click it and it will go away and it will make the screen a bit easier to actually see things. Okay, so we've got this clip here. Now we're going to talk about how might we want to position this clip onto the stage, right? So you see here at the bottom, this is the line which basically lets you zoom in and out. So what I could do is I could drag that in. You can see the time. You see the time signature there? You've got 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Can you see as I go left more, you can see it's getting to smaller and smaller increments. So now we're in like much smaller increment. So say we were like here, and this is literally 1 second. So this is really, really very, very small increments. Now say we wanted to move, just go back to the whole thing again. So often what you want to do is you want to go in, do some very light little touches, and then you want to go out and do edit 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So the way to do that is next to the Z key on the left-hand side, you've got the backslash. Click on backslash, you're going to return back to what you had before. So this is a good way. Zoom in when you want to do something very precise. So sometimes when there's a scene change, if you hold down the shift key, see this situation, I'm holding down the shift key and it's actually stopping on its own as I scrub through. So sometimes I think the program does actually recognize the scene change. So there's different ways that you can actually set things to set things precisely. So we're going to see if we can put this clip in the right position. So say we want it to be at 7 minutes exactly. What I could do is I could go pretty near it. So say we go to, so there's somewhere that's fairly near it, right? You can see we've got this button here, step forward 1 frame. So there we are, right on 7. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold this. And you see, I don't actually need to hold anything. It just, you can probably see as I'm dragging it along, that snapping, that's going to put it exactly at 7 minutes. So I know that the clip is going to start here exactly at 7 minutes. So another thing that you can do with clips is you can actually split them. So that's what these scissors are for here. It says split your clip, press S. So I could perhaps press S and S. So you can see now we've got 3 separate clips. And there's different things we could do with these clips. So for instance, we could click on the speedometer here. And you can see we've got the option here to actually change the speed of the clip. So we could choose the range of it. So let's have a look. So you can see the range is becoming smaller. So I'm only choosing a smaller section of the clip here. Here we could go range speed. And you'll notice that as the speed gets higher, see now this clip is only now 20 seconds long. So if we look at what that looks like, you can see obviously a much, much faster clip. Most of the time you're going to want to keep this button clicked as well, maintain audio pitch. There's also this button here, which is called color. So this gives you a bunch of different presets. So for instance, if you've got a lot of blue sky, obviously it's Minecraft, I think it would work well in real life as well. What you generally want to go for is called Kodak. So Kodak looks really cool, I think. So you can see you can get a bunch of different effects. And there's also this button, apply to all. So that will actually apply to all the different clips. We also have the crop and rotate. So with crop and rotate, essentially what you have to do is if you move the position somewhere, you're actually going to be outside of the frame. So say I move this position over here, you can see there's actually nothing over here. So you actually have to then change the proportion and change it, make it bigger, and that way it will actually fill the screen. So that's generally how that works, and you can choose whether these are locked or not. Hovering over the number tends to let you get a little bit finer control there. You can see the rotation button is also kind of cool. So rotation is a good way to get sort of like a lighter effect. So for instance, you could just rotate a little bit like that, and then do maybe a little bit on the scale. This is more of a, maybe try the rotation a little bit the other way. Could flip things around. You could just make things a little bit different. Depending on your clip, something like a small rotation like this could actually give like a really different sort of approach if you just put that in one little clip maybe. You could also get rid of the top. And you'll notice the interesting thing about the cropping on the top is that because I've rotated slightly, so for instance, say I didn't want to have like this area here on the bottom, you see how that actually comes out in a good place. So that would it actually gives a better image, right? Kind of a more common effect here is to go to the bottom here. You see edge feather. So that will just give you a little, you can just do it. It gives you a little border around things. Okay, so now we have two buttons here, graphics and effects. The effects button, this is stuff which is kind of a bit old-fashioned. You probably don't want to use it, and you can get much better stuff in the graphics tab here. And this button here, add graphic, and you can see we can click on these buttons. If I click here, you can see that it opens up there. And similarly, if I click there, exactly the same thing happens. So you can see we've got a few different options here. We've got titles, transition graphics, and overlays. So transition graphics are really cool. And I'm going to this is my favorite one, to be completely honest. All you do is you click on it, and then you're going to press add. And you can see it just adds it on top. And I can just drag it along. And just take a look how cool this is. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? So you can see that is going to give you a really cool effect. Now, what you might want to do is you might want to actually change the colors of that. So if you click here on graphics, so you can see now we have the shape of the innermost bubble, middle bubble, and outer bubble. So you can see that if we change this color to something else, it's actually going to change everything. And we can also do a shadow. Remember, if you change the shadow though, you're going to want to, you can see, want to change some of these. Distance is the one that actually makes it a bit bigger, right? So you could change that stuff, you could move it around in a certain area. And that's going to give you a different effect. So you've got a lot of control over these things. And the thing about this, right, as well, that's important to realize is that if you actually click on this, what it does is it dynamically changes depending on how long it is. So there are some things which it wouldn't work like this, but it's actually quite cool how that changes like this. It means that the speed of it is automatically slowed down so that it will actually work perfectly no matter how long you change this section to. Okay, we can go to add graphics again. Now, as you can see, there are a bunch of different things here. And you may be thinking, what's the difference between transition and overlays and titles? Honestly, there's not that much. There's not that much because you can sometimes just remove the background and it becomes an overlay. The categorization is really just like anything goes. Like this is I'm in transition graphics, but I could easily put this right at the beginning, right? So let's do that. You can either drag it over or press add. It doesn't make a huge amount of difference. Okay, so you take a look at that. So that's pretty cool, right? That's a pretty cool way to start things. And again, I haven't actually used this one, so it's actually a first for me to see this one. But again, if we go into the menu here, you can see we can change the various different things. We can change title. So if you wanted to change the title, you can see when I click the button title, it actually selects it. Now there isn't actually anywhere to select on the stage here. So for instance, we can press Control A, type tutorial. So you can see I can change the text there. Now, if you wanted to look at the text in a little bit more detail, you can see it's a little bit too close to each other. So in these things, you want to change the things with the character spacing. So you see I can make the things go a little bit further apart. We could put a text shadow there as well. And then just bump up the distance and the blur. So for instance, I could just do something like that, right? And again, you can see with all these different hexagons, we could change that to a different color. So this is because there's so many hexagons here, potentially you could get some pretty cool effects actually. So just shorten the length of that. However you want to look at it, and you can see there's also an out there as well. So you can see we've got so it's really a full featured thing. There's a lot of cool stuff you could do with that. We can click this button here, see everything in your project. Because I put that song in at the beginning, it's still there. Just looking at some of the other stuff, because I mean I've covered pretty much a lot of this program at this point. If we go to preferences, not much in the preferences here. You can see we've also got this pre-render sequences for playback, another way to optimize playback. So there is quite a lot of stuff to make things run better on all machines. You've got manage cache. This is a good way. You might want to check in there, see if there's any loads of files which are being saved which you don't want, using up lots of space. It can easily happen. I've decided that I actually only want this project to be 5 seconds long, so we just removed everything. So we can close that, and we press backslash. There you go. You can see here is our project, 5 seconds long. So after you've done all that, you press share. So you're probably going to want to change the file name to something else. You're going to want to save it to a different place. You can choose in the advanced settings here. You can see we've got preset. Depending on where you want to put it, if you want it Facebook or YouTube, any of these settings are good. It's best to choose the right one though, because that can dramatically alter the actual. So for instance, we did YouTube 1080p. You can see that just went down by a huge amount, right? The file size. And if the file size is obviously gigabytes, then it's going to be a huge amount. It's going to be relative to that size. We can choose custom, so I choose quite high on that. Frame rate, normally you want it to match to your source files. So yeah, you can actually publish it directly from these various different programs, you see. And you can publish it to all the different... so essentially you need to sign in, and then different things will appear here. I haven't set this up yet. And that's quite a good, that's also really cool as well. You can actually choose a different frame. Let's try that. So you can see, you can actually choose on the YouTube upload, you can choose a particular frame, and that's actually going to set it to the thumbnail. So that's actually a very clever thing to do, right? But yeah, I mean, but that's basically it. And then you just choose your document, and then you press export, and you've got your file. So thanks for watching.